Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm excited. We're going to be reacting to the Remembrancer's Uncrowned Prince is, I believe, the Dark Angels. I'm excited about this one. I really like the Dark Angels. Like their lore, the Caliban whole thing with the demon animals. I just finished the Descent of Angels, so that's why we're kind of doing this. So, anyway, without further ado, let's get into it.
Of all the weapons wielded by the Emperor's legions, it is not the cannon or blades that are most deadly. It is knowledge that has carried us to victories beyond count, and wisdom that has broken empires and kings. Among the Legiones Astartes, there are debates on the efficacy and strength of each legion. Rivalries abound, and grudges are born from the glories won and lost in battle. Though of all the legions, there would be one held above all as the template for each to follow.
Really like that artwork of that Ultramarine. That looks pretty cool. But let me know in the comments, what exactly is that rank right there? Because that is very detailed.
The First Legion of the Adeptus Astartes, the Dark Angels. As the first of the Space Marine legions to be founded, the history and heritage of such a prestigious honor would be far-reaching. First deployed during the end of the Unification Wars, it would be the First Legion's solemn duty to aid in the culling of the Emperor's enemies of Holy Terror. Exceptionally deadly from their inception, the First Legion of the Adeptus Astartes would be armed with extensive and powerful advanced weaponries and armor systems, while simultaneously being quick to produce and optimize for battle. With the Emperor of Mankind's utter conquest of Holy Terror, his first brutal army of Thunder Warriors would by necessity need to be culled.
So the little bit I know about the Thunder Warriors is they were like the start of pretty much the Astartes, right? Basically very intelligent, but very like they fell apart really quickly. That's the only thing I really know. They weren't like amazing as like soldiers. They were kind of like they were very strong, very fast, very smart, but they're also like just falling apart, genetically weak. And I know they were kind of brutal too. So kind of makes sense why the Emperor would want to get rid of them.
Alongside the Legio Custodes, the First Legion would aid in the culling of the Goliaths of Terra. Heralding the new age of warriors at the forefront of humanity's conquest of the galaxy, the Astartes of the First would lay the foundations and deeds for all Astartes that would follow. Their origins shrouded in mystery, the First Legion would wage war with distinction, yet the chronicles of their victories would be untold. Initially comprising of a diverse range of recruits from the islands of Albia to the Anatolic steppes, varieties of Terran cultures would define the Legion's early service. The crucible of knowledge from eras of untold wars from Terra's history, the First would forge a mentality and martial code of exceptional pedigree.
So this must be before the Emperor found Lionel Johnson. I mean, he didn't mention Caliban, so we know that's where he's from. It's very interesting. It's a very interesting little story here. So the First Legion did help the Emperor take down all the Thunder Warriors, which would have been a horrible idea to keep them around. So that's good. Get rid of them because they're bad. Are they really bad though? I mean, kind of. From what I know, the little I know about them, they were not great.
Forming so-called hosts within the Legion that would later be remolded into the Hexagrammaton, these combat doctrines of war would specialize in decoders of battle strategy. As their name would be known as the Angels of Death, the First Legion would adopt a symbol to represent their guise to which they had been attributed. The skeletal icon of death itself would adorn their banners, and as the left hand of the Emperor, the First Legion would accrue their battle honors and glories with humble grim pride. With the Emperor's expanse into the Sol system and beyond, the newly proclaimed Great Crusade to unite humanity would see to the expanse of the Emperor's war effort. As the remaining 19 legions would grow in number before being sent to conquer the galaxy, alone the First Legion would stand vigil as their brother legions would grow in number. Known singularly as his Angels, the First would cleanse the frozen moons of the outer segments of the solar system for 10 Terran years, further refining their formations into orders specializing in specific arts of war. The First Legion would face the most grueling and difficult trials laid forth by the Emperor, and succeed with their continually improving skill at arms. Their armor painted deep shades of purest black, the First Legion would return to Holy Terror as toughened veterans of war. Seeking no fanfare for their deeds, the First would be assigned to the shipyards of Mars and receive vessels dating from the days of Old Night. For each other legion, they would be gifted ships, but the vaunted First would be entrusted with a fleet. The first to be crafted, refined and proven, it would be the duty of the First Legion to carve a path at the spear tip of the Great Crusade. They were the first of the Angels of Death, and their legacy would be every legion's heritage. As the remaining legions brought planets into compliance, the First would hold the collective wrath of a remorseless galaxy at bay.
So they must have changed the color of the armor when they found Lionel Johnson, because they're not black, obviously. They're like a forest green. Them going out into space and becoming veterans as the First Legion, I mean, got to be pretty strong now, right? Well, at the time of the Horus Heresy, they were real strong. So I'm just interested to see when they actually, like, the whole story of when they actually meet their Primarch for the first time. Because that's baller right there, is when it happened. But they also were talking about almost knightly things, and that's the vibe obviously these guys give off, is knightly orders, stuff like that. Especially in that book, The Descent of Angels, they were very knightly. That's pretty much what they did, was they were knights.
As worlds of humans would be brought into the fold of humanity, his Angels would cleanse nearby hovels of untold terrors from existence. For every shining spark of hope gleaned for the Imperium, the First Legion would lay waste to 100 nightmares. Their many victories against fathomless monsters of unremitting cruelty censured from the knowledge of the First Legion's histories to better safeguard humanity. Yet with their continued victories, the First Legion would slowly be consumed by their ego. As the triumphs of the Legion would grow, the Astartes of the First...
So that thing kind of confused me. I don't know much about them before they met Lionel. Like, we know their ego consumed the Legion, so there must be something I'm missing from that whole thing. Because in the Knightly Order, obviously, they're not really like that at all. They're really down to earth, really, they seem really nice in that book, right? So there's some history there that I don't understand or know yet.
First would enshrine tradition as their foremost virtue. As each host and order grew in power, they would jealously guard their expertise, teachings, and tactics. Turning upon themselves, the Astartes of the First would become secretive and no longer share their knowledge with their brother legions. With some legions such as the Ultramarines and Imperial Fists challenging the First Legion's power with their Primarch's discoveries, the superiority of the First would be challenged. Their pride would begin to cost the Legion victories and losses to their number. Defeat would be a bitter taste for a legion accustomed to unchallenged victories and the greatest of weapons, vessels, and numbers to fight their opponents.
So if they're the first, obviously they got all the best stuff at the beginning. He said that they got a fleet of ships, whereas like other legions didn't get a fleet of ship. They only got like 1 or 2 vessels, whereas these guys got a big fleet, and because they were entrusted to them. and then they're becoming really secretive, which I don't think a lot of the other Primarchs are gonna like. So, and it seems like they must have gotten, they must have found Rabute first and not anybody else. This just kind of, well, no, Horus was first. If I'm not mistaken, Horus was first, and then the other guys after.
Yet with the discovery of Caliban by the scouts of the 5th Legion, the 1st Legion's downfall would be prevented. Within the dark forests of Caliban, a Primarch had faced the dangers of the feral world. Lion L. Johnson, master of the Order of Knights, had culled the beasts of the forests and united Caliban's populace under his own banner. Despite the world's primitive technological capabilities, the Knights of Caliban had faced the terrors of their homeworld and conquered them. With the Emperor of Mankind's reunion with his gene-son, the Lion would be given command of the vaunted 1st Legion, renaming them the Dark Angels after the ancient Calibanite myth of their heritage. A new era would begin for the 1st Legion. The Lion would test his new warriors to observe their prowess in battle. Standing against the captain of each company, garbed in their cataphracti pattern Terminator armor, the Lion would best each in combat with his own Calibanite steel. Taking their measure, the Lion would begin to incorporate his Knights of Caliban into the Legion. Ashamed at the state of their once glorious Legion, the Terran Astartes of the First would attempt to redeem their honor by throwing themselves into engagements with renewed zeal. Yet with dissent rising between the Terran and Caliban Astartes, the Lion would disband the Knightley orders and Astartes hosts in order to rebuild the Legion as a unified army. As Caliban's surface would be transformed by the Imperium, so too would the 1st Legion. The Lion would see the galaxy teeming with beasts to slay in the name of the Imperium, and with his Dark Angels by his side, he would slay every one of them that dared to stand in his way. A primal force of destruction, the Lion would not heed the passions often championed by his brother Primarchs. Instead, he would renew his Legion's honor by crushing the enemies of humanity.
So, the little bit, they kind of go into Lionel a little bit. I know that there's a guy named Luther that's his brother, in the sense that their dad, or the guy who raised both of them, I think one was actually his real son. Luther was actually this guy's real son. Train them how to become knights, because the knight thing was already on Caliban before they found Lionel, and then they brought him in and he became a knight through them, and then he united everybody by slaying all these beasts. Wow, this I have to say. So if I would have found these guys first, rather than if I would, I guess, read that book first before I got my little minis, I would probably be doing Dark Angels right now and not Ultramarines. I still don't know jack shit about them. So, but I just think, it was an easy project, but I think these guys would have been really cool to have. So, there's a lot of armies I want to paint. I really like painting all these little figures. It's fun and challenging.
Merging the teachings of Caliban with the Terran Astartes' experiences, the Hexagrammaton would be forged, and his quest to reunite the disparate companies of his Legion into a cohesive fighting army. After years of toil, the Lion would succeed in reorganizing his fragmented Legion into 100,000 Astartes strong. Swearing an oath to his Astartes, the Lion would declare, "We are the Angels of Darkness. For us there is no peace, no end by war and death. We shall not walk in the golden halls of mankind's future, but stand resolute in the shadows beyond. While we yet draw breath, this Imperium will not fall, and we will not know defeat. For I pledge every warrior, every drop of blood in the Legion in the name of victory, no matter the cost." Assigning new masters to each newly formed wing of the Dark Angels, the Lion would lead his legion into the wars to come, pledged to kill the enemies of his Imperium and nothing else. As the Great Crusade waged on, the Dark Angels would reclaim their glory as a respected and indomitable force. Despite the Lion's dour and cold demeanor, his deeds as a general of his Imperium would be exceptional. Bringing many worlds into compliance and slaying malevolent terrors of the galaxy, the Lion's quest to unify the galaxy in the name of humanity would be absolute. Never relenting in his duty, the Lion would never rest on his laurels for parades or self-indulgence, but rather prepare for the next battle to bring humanity closer to its ultimate goal.
So yeah, this is about the same as it was in Descent of Angels. He's very, I don't want like celebrations in my name. I don't want any of that. I just want to be ready for the next conflict. Him taking on all the chaos beasts of his homeworld to try to make everything safe for everybody over there in in Caliban was met with some, like, they weren't exactly happy. Like some of the other knights in there, they were very annoyed by this whole thing. If you can't have beasts, you don't need knights in order to fight wars against these beasts. You don't need to protect anybody. So obviously there was a strike, like an issue there. But he was a very, in that book, Lionel Johnson was very noble and very like kind. That's the one thing you can kind of, like, just to normal everyday people. Like he was a decent, really nice human, and right now Primarch, not human. Uh, he's very nice to everybody there. Up until it came to fighting these other knightly orders in order to get what he wanted done. So it kind of flipped on itself a little bit when he was talking about how he was very secretive, blah, 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 and didn't really want to associate with anybody else as far as other legions, just to show his martial prowess or whatever. It's a very interesting little statement there. It must have changed somewhere.
For these qualities, the Lion would be considered for the rank of War Master, despite the honor being bequeathed to the Primarch of the Lunar Wolves, Horus Lupercal. Yet with the War Master's fall to the thrall of the ruinous powers, it would be the Lion and his Dark Angels, which would be arguably the greatest threat to the traitor's schemes. Ordered to wage war on the furthest reaches of the galaxy, Horus Lupercal would spread the Dark Angels far from his treachery before his opening gambit. Despite their stalling to face the traitors, the Dark Angels would nonetheless prove an exceptionally potent force against the War Master. Facing the Night Lords during the Framas Crusade, the Dark Angels would best the undisciplined rabble of the 8th Legion, yet be delayed from returning to Holy Terra to defend the Throne World. Joining with the Blood Angels and Ultramarines within the Ultramar system, the 3 legions and their Primarchs would be separated from the Imperium with the birth of the Great Rift across the galaxy. Further attempting to staunch the wound inflicted upon humanity, the Primarchs would found the contingency of Imperium Secundus in an attempt to create an empire to replace the potentially destroyed Imperium. Yet with the news of the Emperor's continued survival, the Primarchs would resolve to travel to Holy Terra. Enabling the Blood Angels to breach an opening within the ruined storm, the Ultramarines and Dark Angels would not return.
So that rift, correct me if I'm wrong, that rift is when Slaanesh was born, right? That's what caused that big, because it seems like pretty close in there. That warps. So in the first 2 books, they were talking about the warp storms that was happening, and then the Fulgrim whole thing with him changing and being like not a nice guy anymore. Not that he ever really was. That must have been when it happened. Okay, let me know in the comments if I'm right on that one. I'm not really sure. I feel like I am, but don't know.
return to Holy Terror in time to prevent the death of Sanguinius or wounding of the Emperor. Instead, Lionel Johnson would attempt to draw the traitors from the throne world by razing their own homeworlds to the ground. Destroying the Emperor's children homeworld of Chemos and Death Guard homeworld of Barbarus, the Dark Angels would be unable to prevent the traitors from enacting the Siege of Terror. As the Emperor of Mankind began his long vigil upon the Golden Throne, the Dark Angels under the command of the Lion would seek retribution. Rallying the Loyalist legions in their great scouring of the traitors to the throne, the First Legion would pursue the fleeing traitors across the galaxy. Despite many foes being slain by their hand, the Dark Angels would attempt to muster reinforcements from their homeworld of Caliban to better suit the Legion's new duty to destroy the War Master's broken armies. Yet as they arrived in orbit of Caliban, the planet's defenses would fire upon the Lion's fleet. Enraged, the Lion would lead his men to confront the duplicitous warriors whom had once served in his name. Confronting his once most trusted mentor and friend, Luthor, the Lion would duel the now chaos-empowered knight.
Oh no.
The Lion would be wounded.
That was spoilers. I didn't know. I didn't know that. Damn it. Damn it. Well, I guess now we gotta... I don't know. I don't know how to feel. It kind of seemed like that was gonna happen anyway, but I wasn't really sure. Luthor didn't really like them, all the glory that the Lion was getting, and Luthor couldn't become a Space Marine or an Astartes due to him being so old. So, oh man, damn it!
Wounded by his once father.
These guys just have to be so thorough. Just let's just get it all out there, huh?
Figure, and with the deceit of his actions realized, Luthor would be racked with guilt at his actions. As the planet began to be torn asunder by the birth of a chaos-infused warp storm, the Watchers in the Dark would rescue the Primarch. Caliban would be sundered, with only the fortress monastery of Alderuk and the earth it stood on surviving the destruction wrought by the ruinous powers. Yet with time, Caliban's broken earth would be salvaged and be formed into the vast space vessel known as the Rock. Serving as the Dark Angel's homeworld and flagship, the Rock would harbor its armies, armaments, secrets, and deep within its chambers, unknown by all but the Emperor himself, the Primarch. Entombed within a stasis chamber, the Lion slumbers until the time for his Dark Angel's redemption shall be at hand. Their quest to hunt down the fallen angels whom betrayed their trust, seemingly never fated to end, the Dark Angels know not as to the fate of their Gene Father, hidden within the most sacred and hidden chamber of their home.
So wait, the Lion went to go slumber inside of the Rock, which was, just a piece of their home. Why? Why did he do that? I guess they're trying to hunt down some, traitor legion. It's wait, so they're hunting down, some of their own guys, he just said that. I still don't understand why he went to go hide inside the Rock. You'd think he'd want to be out in front, just trying to, take care of business, right? But I guess not. He wanted to go sleep for a while.
With the fall of their brothers to the thrall of chaos, the Dark Angels conceal the truth of their legion's corruption from any outside of their ranks. Fearing censure or even excommunication from the Imperium, should such a truth be revealed, the Dark Angels go to any lengths to obscure and redact any traces of the fallen angels of Caliban. With their homeworld destroyed and Primarch missing, the Dark Angels would busy themselves with the destruction of the enemies of his Imperium. Yet as news of the fallen survival would be revealed, the Dark Angels would resolve to purge their treacherous kin from the galaxy. Despite all that the First Legion had endured, a glint of redemption sparked in their duty to slay their former brothers. Atoning for their failure, the Dark Angels would be divided into successor, so-called unforgiven chapters, by the ruling of the Codex Astartes. Yet the imperative goal of all Sons of the Lion would be to hunt down and destroy the Fallen, no matter their directives or assignments tasked by the Imperium. Torturing the former first captain of the Legion, Luther, for centuries within the bowels of the rock, the Dark Angels would attempt to decipher the treachery indulged by the Fallen. Yet with the invasion of the corrupted Fallen Demon Prince, Marbas, of the Rock, Luther would escape. Despite their reinforcement of Primaris Marines sent forth by the returned Ultramarines Primarch, Rabute Gilliman, portents of the Fallen building a sizable army within Imperium Nihilus trouble the unforgiven chapters of the Dark Angels. Sightings of Fallen within the Somnium Stars in numbers capable of threatening the Imperium, now of the utmost danger, with their former commander now returned to wreak havoc across the galaxy.
So in the book, I remember at the very end of it, which if you're not caught up, which you should be, it just happened to be me that's not caught up. Luther and some of a lot of his followers left to go back to Caliban, so that must have been when all the chaos nonsense happened. So they're trying to stop them and just, end all the traitors in their ranks. It just seems like, but why? I must be missing a piece or something here, because it's like, I have a lot of questions. That'll probably get answered if I read more books. So I guess we'll just, but I want to know why he went to sleep. Why did he go to sleep? What was the point of that? When you got all these other, like, chapters that are trying to, trying to hunt down this, it's, that thought is annoying me because I'm trying to figure out why. Why? He didn't really mention why or maybe I missed it, but it's annoying.
The Dark Angels, bereft of their homeworld, draw recruits from a variety of planets, but predominantly recruit from feudal worlds lacking in industrial sophistication, alike to Caliban. Initially recruiting from a singular world known as the Plains World, the Dark Angels would diversify their candidates with the Plains World's corruption by the Tyrannid Xenos. Taking only the strongest juveniles from each planet, recruiters screen the candidates to join the Legion and erase all traces of their past lives. Undertaking the rites of initiation akin to other chapters of the Astartes, the Dark Angels aspirants who fail in their undertakings are mind-wiped and converted into servitors. Unlike other chapters, the Dark Angels use a preponderance of servitors in the stead of chapter serfs. Believing serfs with free will to be corruptible to their cause, the Dark Angels prevent compromise of their secrets and schemes. The gene seed of the aspirants and veterans of the chapter are amongst the purest of any Astartes. Degradation of their gene seed is unheard of, as even their Primaris Space Marines of the chapter carry gene seed of amongst the greatest quality observed in any chapter. With no known gene flaws or mutations, it is nonetheless baffling as to the High Lords of Terror's.
So he just mentioned that instead of like serfs being essentially their what am I trying to think of? What's the word? There's a word. There's a knight and his, I'm blanking on that. But they had, so the Death Guard used to have like essentially like a serf that would help out the particular Death Guard, right? I know that part of it, and I know that it was a dying thing because they didn't really want them. These guys chose to use failed aspirants to the Dark Angels, convert them into servitors, which sounds awful, and then use them instead of having like a regular guy because they wouldn't be corruptible. Like the servitors wouldn't be corruptible versus just a regular serf. It makes sense, but they're keeping in with the tradition of the knights, the whole knight thing. So that's pretty cool.
His decision to rarely found new successor chapters of the first. Collectively known as the Unforgiven, the successors of the First Legion share a uniquely close bond of cooperation compared to their cousin legions. Rumored to function more akin to a legion than separate chapters, the Emperor's Holy Inquisition often caused the Unforgiven chapters to take flight from war zones with their mere presence. As a result, the Unforgiven chapters are regarded with distrust from most branches of the Imperium. With many successors of the Dark Angels disappearing from Imperial records shortly after their founding, the Adeptus Terra only permits new chapters under the most desperate of circumstances. Yet with the involvement of Rabute Guilliman's position as Lord Commander of the Imperium, the Dark Angel successors have once again burgeoned. Much to the dismay of the Ecclesiarchy, the Dark Angels do not give praise to the Emperor of Mankind as a god. Venerating their Primarch, Lionel Johnson, above all with exception to the Emperor, the Dark Angels believe the Master of Mankind to be a singular man, but a man regardless. Fully consumed by their betrayal of their kin in the form of the fallen angels, the Dark Angels are relentless in their pursuit of their traitorous brethren. Driven to wipe all traces of their Legion's sin from the galaxy, the Dark Angels seek absolution from the destruction of their homeworld and fracturing of their Legion.
So who said that they were, just because a fraction of them had fallen doesn't mean that the whole thing needs to be unforgiven, right? I don't understand that. That must be a lore thing that I'm missing, that piece. So I don't understand why it's such a. I get that they're very noble and their honors a lot, but who decided all of this unforgiven stuff? Was it Gilliman? Did he say that and I missed it? I guess I don't understand that part. Because it's not like all of them did anything horrible. It's just, a little bit of them, just some. This little group over here. So I don't know. They take it real. It seems like they're really personally invested in killing all of these guys. So that's pretty hardcore.
For 10 millennia, the first have
I guess when honor means everything, right? That makes sense.
Toiled in their pursuit of the fallen. Capturing fallen angels and returning their charges to the Rock, the Dark Angels' interrogator chaplains utilize every method in their means to cause their fallen kin to repent. Given a swift and painless death should they comply, the fallen rarely surrender to the methods of the interrogators. The names of the slain fallen added to the Book of Salvation. Though it is true to say that only the inner circle of the Dark Angels know the truth of the fallen, secrecy is a trait necessary for any Astartes of the First. Preferring to stand alone, or at most with their cousin Astartes, the Dark Angels are stringent in their dealings with outsiders. Impatient and terse with their dealings,
so another thought. There's a lot of different colors going on for this faction. So they got green and they got black and white and all this other stuff. So is there significance with the different colors of that thing? I'm sure that has something to do with the chapters, but why not have them mostly unified by one primary color and then subsequent colors? It's very interesting. And how long has that been going on for? Has that been going on for forever? Is that like a thing that's, newer to after like the whole Terran invasion? I don't know. Just a question.
Dark Angels are seen as aloof and difficult to work with by their counterparts. Notoriously intolerant of abhumans, the Dark Angels refuse to deal with such militarum contingents. Yet despite their friction with Imperium forces, the Dark Angels are amongst the most capable and respected chapters of the Adeptus Astartes. The first service to the Death Watch, a continual example of their fortitude in battle, the Dark Angels occupy several senior positions amongst the ranks of the elite Xenos hunters. Bringing extensive knowledge to the Death Watch, the Dark Angels are often at the forefront of the most dangerous of engagements. Though some scholars posit that the Dark Angels extensively serve within the Death Watch in order to use its resources to ascertain the location of splinters of the Fallen.
So what the hell is the Death Watch? Is that part of the These guys, is that part of that whole thing, or is this different? I guess I'm not really sure if that's like a Dark Angels only thing or like a everything, like all legions or chapters, or is it even
During
part
their
of that?
time as a legion, the Dark Angels' numbers would peak at the amount of 180,000 Astartes. Amongst the largest of all the legions, such as the Ultramarines and Sons of Horus, the Dark Angels would be one of the single most powerful armies within the Imperium. Difficult to observe by outsiders, the Dark Angels would maintain an obscured and complex command protocol in order to maintain secrecy within the Legion, often presenting themselves to allied forces without explanation to their command structure, to allow their allies to correctly identify the Legion's leadership, to prove their insight as commanders and earn the respect of the Legion. Comprised of many of the most accomplished Astartes within the Great Crusade, the Dark Angels would gain incredible skill and proficiency in every discipline of war. Deployed widely during the Great Crusade, and armed with the single most deadly weaponry recovered from the Dark Age of technology, the Dark Angels seen en masse would be a great omen for any engagement necessary to draw so many of the deadly First Legion to bear. Gifted with the largest fleet of any of the legions, the Dark Angels, even prior to their reunion with their Primarch, would bear many victories and compliances across the galaxy. Encumbered during the Horus Heresy due to the War Master's meticulous planning to divide the Legion, the Dark Angels would be fragmented lest they overwhelm the war effort of the traitors. Denying the influence of the War Master's warrior lodges due to their inherent structure of wings and orders, the Dark Angels would deny the corrupting influence of chaos. Yet with the legions fracturing by their separatist kin and the scouring of the traitors to the throne, the fractured legion of the Dark Angels would be broken down into Codex-compliant chapters. More insular.
The Codex was put into place by Rabute. Is that even how you say his name? Is it Reboot, Robot, Rabute, whatever? Just go with that. By Gilliman. So it was put in by Gilliman. So that's when they must have broken up. But then it seemed like they had other chapters or other secretive things inside this legion before that.
And paranoid, the wider Imperium would note the further spiral of secrecy subsuming the Dark Angels. Turning a blind eye to the chapter's new monastic and reclusive behavior, the newly founded Inquisition and other Imperial orders would sanction the Dark Angels to continue to serve the Imperium due to the loss of their homeworld, Primarch, and otherwise exceptional deeds. Instrumental during the scouring of the traitors, the Dark Angels would prove themselves to be effective in driving the traitors to the dark corners of the galaxy. Whilst the Dark Angels follow the combat doctrines outlined by the Codex Astartes, the former Legion's history of stubborn defiance endures. Ignoring objectives should they catch even the hint of information usable to track down the Fallen, though an indomitable force of reckoning for the Imperium, the Dark Angels are not without flaws. Should a human life, or an Astartes life, stand in the way of a clue to track the Fallen, such life will be readily sacrificed for the need of the chapter. For records exist of the Dark Angels turning on their allies in order to prevent information of the Fallen from being revealed to those outside of the First. For any who survive with knowledge of the Fallen are taken to the Rock to be lobotomized as servitors to the chapter. Adhering to the code.
Does that include Space Marines? Because that wouldn't be good. That would be very treacherous for them. So kind of no wonder they don't really like fall into place with this. They kind of do what they have to get through to get what they want, but they will definitely turn on if you know something, and you might want to not tell them because you will get lobotomized. That's crazy. I wonder how many, if they do that to Space Marines, and how many they've done that to, because they can't just go missing, right? Unless it's like they've fallen in war or whatever. It's like one finds out, hey, I know this about the fallen angels, and it's like a peacetime, or they're just like hanging out somewhere. And that guy goes missing. Somebody's gonna know, or maybe they will know and just not care. make up a lie or something.
Codex Astartes, with exception given to the Deathwing and Ravenwing companies. Organization of the chapter is otherwise compliant with the tome's outlines. Extremely flexible in their use of combined arms and rapid deployments, the Dark Angels employ immensely proficient tacticians and specialists, with the incorporation of Primaris Marines further bolstering their exceptional skills at hunting down their prey and striking with overwhelming firepower. Incorporating these new units into their Ravenwing company to great effect, the Dark Angels have become reinvigorated with their new blood into the chapter. The core of the majority of strike forces comprise of battle line squads supported by close combat and fire support elements. Yet there do exist unique specialist formations within the chapter. The Elite Deathwing 1st Company and Ravenwing 2nd Company can be called to support any engagement should the need arise, though their primary objective is always to hunt the fallen angels should their presence be found. The 3rd Company, the Unmerciful, 4th Company, the Feared, and 5th Company, the Unrelenting, serving as the backbone of the chapter. These battle companies serve as the chapter's might brought to bear. The 6th Company, the Resolute, and 7th Company, the Unbowed, are defined as tactical companies. Comprised entirely of tactical squads, the 6th and 7th Companies excel at launching diversionary tactics and flanking maneuvers. The 8th Company, the Wrathful, consist entirely of assault squads and act as the close support company. Outfitted with jump packs, the 8th Company overwhelm enemy positions and cleave their way through defenses using melee combat. The 9th Company, the Remorseless, consists entirely of Devastator squads and serve as the fire support company. Armed with the most powerful long-range fire support weaponry of the chapter, the 9th Company aid their frontline brothers with overwhelming firepower. And finally, the 10th Company, the Redeemed, harbor the chapter's Scout Marines. The neophytes of the chapter train to become full battle brothers, with their most veteran members being assigned to strike forces to the other companies as needed. Yet with the return of Rubute Gilliman and the influx of Primaris Marines, the structure of the Dark Angels and its successors has once more shifted. Now composing of 6 battle line squads, 2 close support squads, and 2 fire support squads, most deployments now consist of a battle company with additional Deathwing, Ravenwing, and Scout Marines bolstering their forces as needed. With exception to the 1st, 2nd, and 10th Company, each company maintains a variety of transport armor designs, such as Rhinos, Razorbacks, and Repulsors. Dreadnoughts of the Legion remain in service to the company to which they serve during their internment, and slumber within the Rock's Halls of Silence until they are needed. During the era of the Great Crusade, the Dark Angels would paint their armor jet black, with the Calibanite Astartes adorning the heraldry of their knight houses on their right pauldron. The Lion would order his sons of Caliban to honor the forests of their homeworld by painting their left pauldrons dark green. Yet with the end of the Horus Heresy, the color schemes of the chapter would be reorganized. The 2nd Company would remain jet black to honor their heritage, with the wider chapters adorning their plate with the dark green of Caliban. Whilst the Elite 1st Company, the Deathwing, would paint their Terminator armor bone white in honor of a battle fought against the Genestealer cult on the Plains world.
Okay, so now I understand a little bit more about their color scheme. Oh. So I always thought it was interesting that they weren't all pretty much unified with, mostly one color. So now it kind of makes sense. Okay.
To paint their armor in the color of death, as dead men walking, the ghost-like Deathwing of the engagement did not expect to survive their battle with the Devourer. Yet their fighting spirit would be proven, and their reclamation of the world would cement the colors of the Deathwing forevermore. For the regular Astartes of the chapter, each battle brother signifies their battlefield specialty on their right pauldron, with their squad numerical on their right shoulder. Whether they be battle line, close support, fire support, or veterans. The winged blade adorns their left pauldron, though members of the 10th Company, for not earning their wings, utilize only the blade of their chapter. The Deathwing replaced the bladed sword with a broken variant, and the Ravenwing utilize a blade held with a single winged raven claw. The Battle and Reserve Companies show their company identifier on their left knee plate, whilst veterans of the chapter are identified by their armor's adornment in hooded tabards and cloaks. Signifying their knowledge of the fallen, these cloaks are used to hide their shame of the chapter's fallen angels. Unlike many Codex-compliant chapters of the Adeptus Astartes, the Dark Angels use terminologies and ranks to orchestrate the command between their various successors. The Supreme Grand Master of the Dark Angels acts as the chapter master of the first. Said to command not only the Dark Angels, the Supreme Grand Master leads the chapter's inner circle and is privy to every secret of the chapter and its legion's history. Supposedly commanding every successor chapter as the most senior rank of all the line's descendants, the Supreme Grand Master of the Dark Angels is amongst the most powerful individuals of the Imperium. For each wing of the Dark Angels, there also
Okay, so he just said, he said a lot of things, but the Supreme Grand Master, he said that was Azrael? Okay, so in the Descent of Angels, I was curious about this one. Zahariel is one of the main characters in that, with his cousin or something. I forget his name. He's also a Marine, a Space Marine too. So is Zahariel Azrael? Is that a thing? I guess I'm gonna find out eventually, but I'm not really sure right now. It's been driving me nuts because of Tacticus. Azrael is one of the characters you can get for a Dark Angel. I don't have him yet, but so I was kind of curious about that. And he did know the Lion when he was a young boy and then became a Space Marine. So I was just interested, is that a thing?
Also exists a Grand Master. The Grand Master of the Death Wing commands the elite first company of the chapter and acts as the successor to the Supreme Grand Master. The Grand Master of the Raven Wing commands the chapter's second company and serves as the chapter's leader of the hunt of the fallen angels. The Grand Master of the Librarians maintains the chapter's records and the protection of the chapter's secrets. The Master Apothecary tends to the chapter's medical needs and biological research, with his most important duty to preserve the chapter's near-peerless gene seed stocks. The Master of the Rock is a title equivalent to a chapter's Master of the Forge. Leading the chapter's tech marines, vehicle pools, and maintenance of the chapter's armory, the Master of the Rock bears the technological prowess of a Magos of the Tech Priests of Mars. Permanently hardwired into the control nave console of the Rock, the Master of the Rock maintains the workings of the gigantic vessel, but is not privy to the dealings of the chapter's inner circle due to his creed's ties to the Adeptus Mechanicus. The High Interrogator of the chapter serves alike to a chapter's High Chaplain. As Reclusiarch and Master of Sanctity of the First, the High Interrogator trains his junior-ranked Interrogator chaplains in their arts of psychological manipulation. The Grand Master of the Fleet commands the chapter's naval contingents, transports, and warship assets. Captains of the Legion are known as Company Masters and lead each of the 10 companies of the chapter. Although serving as members of the inner circle of the chapter, the Company Masters are not privy to the most dangerous secrets of the chapter. Each a veteran of the first company, the Death Wing, the Company Masters have proven their mettle in battle as reliable commanders and are given the honor to lead. Since the adoption of the Codex Astartes, lieutenants have served within the Dark Angels as the right-hand facilitators of their company masters. Often splitting each battle company into 2 smaller demi-companies, the lieutenants lead these smaller battalions into battle, allowing for their experience to place them as company masters. Should their senior officers fall in battle, the lieutenants are a vital role for each company. And for those of exceptional battle prowess within the elite first company, there also exist the Death Wing Knights. Imbued with the Lion's own semblance of strength, these veterans of the first company uphold the traditions of the chapter whilst purging all manner of their most deadly foes. Members of the inner circle, the Death Wing Knights are brought to the Chamber of Judgment within the Rock to face the trials incumbent of their rank. Once prevailing in these tasks, the Knights are presented with a Mace of Absolution and Storm Shield by the Watchers in the Dark as a mark of their office.
Ooh, the Watchers in the Dark. So that was part of the initiation for becoming a knight on Caliban. They had some Watchers in the Dark who'd watch you, pretty much grab you in the middle of the night, beat the shit out of you, and then take you somewhere and interrogate you for a long time in the dark to make sure that you're like gonna be worthy of being a knight. So I really like that Terminator armor. It's kind of weird. So the one thing I don't really like about it is that helmet, how it kind of like it almost looks like a robot dog or something. That's the only part I don't really like about Terminator armor. I would much rather have like something, maybe something cooler, like a skull or something. That thing just looks a little. Don't come after me for that. That's just my opinion. It looks a little goofy.
With even these elite warriors promoted to the rank of Knight Masters, armed with the flail of the Unforgiven, to better slay the enemies of the chapter. The Ravenwing Black Knights storm into battle on their customized Mark IV assault bikes. Heavily armored cavalry units, the Black Knights pass 7 rites of the Raven in order to bear the honor. Carrying their Corvus hammers into battle, their bikes' plasma talons rend the enemies in their path. Led by their Ravenwing Huntmasters, the Black Knights form rally points for their kin companies to support. Each company also bear their veterans and champions with humble reverence. Ancients of the companies carry the chapter's banners into battle, spurring their battle brothers to fight with renewed vigor. And for their champions, each company appoints such heroes of battle by combination of honor duels, contests of strength, and other means to challenge one another. Confronting enemy warlords, captains, and senior officers, the Dark Angel's champions stride into battle not only against the enemies of his Imperium, but also any Space Wolf champion offered to challenge their chapter's honor in battle. For the Dark Angels have many enemies across the stars, and should they relent in their persecution of the guilty, humanity shall be subsumed by darkness. Empires, monuments, and legends are built by those who are merely victorious. We were born to kill, not to build. We are not idle long enough to leave monuments, and we leave no work of the enemy intact to spawn legends. We are the First Legion, and he that follows in our wake is death.
Wow. So that was so cool. Oh my god, the Dark Angels are so cool. I really like them. I guess I don't have like a favorite faction just yet. Like a favorite, not a faction, favorite legion just yet. Every, I know it's not Horus. I know it's not the Sons of Horus. Uh, I like some of the guys from that, but don't like that one. Definitely not an Emperor's Children guy. Uh, Thousand Sons, they're cool, but some of the secret-y crap, I don't know. And then the sorcery stuff, Dark Angels are on top of that list. So far, one of my favorites. So just putting it out there. The Remembrancer always does just a great job of all of his videos. He's very thorough, very knowledgeable. I learned some stuff. I have lots and lots of questions now. So I guess we'll keep going. Anyway, if you like the video, leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Catch you in the next one.